Hello, my name is Ralph. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at this custom bike here that's got a little bit of a problem. I rewired this machine for this gentleman probably a few years ago when it had a lot of electrical problems, and to my understanding it's worked fine ever since. But now it seems like the bike is starting very erratic. Sometimes it'll start, sometimes it won't. What he told me was that he would get the bike there, get ready to idle and everything, and get his helmet, get his stuff and everything else like that. And I don't know whether it's stalled, but then the bike won't start. It appears like there's no spark, no gas, no something. Sometimes it can be the simplest of things. So what I'm going to start with today is I'm just going to pull the spark plug wires off of it. I'm going to fire this thing up. I'll probably put it outside maybe, let it run for a bit, let it warm up, shut it down, see if it's going to start again. If it continues to start all the time for me, there's not much that I can do about it, but I'm sure we'll find something. So let's go. So I've got a set of plug wires here that I use on my test stand, and I know that they work very well. So I have a lot of confidence in them. So we're just going to start by pulling these off. Don't want them caught up in the belt. There we go. I know I've got power here, power everywhere. All right, ultimately, it just quit. So having fired it up now, and it ran for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, it just quit. Checking with the Dyna ignition system, which has the indicator light on it when it should be firing, I look down and I see it's not firing at all. I'm not getting no blinking off of it. So either the unit is not firing properly, or there's a short somewhere that keeps turning it off. So possibly it could be aligned to that. So what I'm going to try to do is see if I can trace back through and figure out where the hot wire for the Dyna ignition is, which is off of your coil. So I'm either losing power to the coil. There's a problem there. We're going to try to track it down. I want to see if I've got any bad connections off the bottom of the coil here. And everything seems to be tight there. But when I turn the key on, let's see what would be my whites. 2.8. 2.8 is all I got. So I'll measure my voltage on my coils, and I've got 2.7 coming across the coils. Now, I would think on most things I should have 12 volts coming there, and I don't. So we're going to try a couple things to try and eliminate that and see if it's a problem with the feed to it and not getting 12 volts to the unit or not. The Dyna unit is, 2 wires off of, well, it's single fire, so it's 3 wires off the coils. I'm going to have to check on that. I just took for granted it was single fire, but I'm going to check down on the Dyna system and see what it's set at. We go by the dip switch here, and number 6 here is on. So that shows me that this is a single fire ignition system in here. So I'm trying to track down the system that goes from the battery when we get power here that's going up to the coil. And we only seem to have the 2.7 volts at the coil, which we should be getting 12. There's 2 units in here. One appearing to be one of those little damn push button switches, which are noted for giving trouble. But that is the start switch. And I can eliminate that by pushing on the one on the starter here. There's a remote. So what I'm more concerned with is the power out of the small toggle switch here. And it's running up through our system in that wire casing. I can see it moving. And that looks like our unit down through there. So what I'm going to have to do is disconnect some things at the coil and try to see where I'm losing my 12 volts. It could be the dyno ignition shorting in there and causing me a problem. But we're going to try by the process of elimination to see what we can eliminate and how we can get that 12 volts back to the coil to start with. So what we're going to do here is eliminate the dyno ignition system from the coils. And I want to see if I've got 12 volt right from our system up to here, which now we're just getting like 2.7. If I eliminate the dyno ignition, then I know that it can't possibly, it's not a short in the dyno that's causing the problem. As soon as it starts to whirl over, then it quits. So we're going to try that to start with. And I got a few other ideas that we'll step through as we go. I think what I'll do, it still has to come apart in order to get the hot spot off of there. This is my hot. Right here is my hot wire. So I'm going to disconnect that to start with. This will disconnect me from the dyno ignition system, and I should just have 12 volts on this wire. It appears that we're not getting 12 volts up to the system. So something's being lost, be it in the switch back here or here. I'm not quite sure which one's which on this. So we're not getting it up here. That's the problem. So we've got to follow back and think about where does it go? Where does it come and where does it go from? Back here at the ignition switch, of course, is where we're turning it off and on. So first thing I'm going to do is check that I got 12 volts coming out of the ignition switch over to the power toggle switch that seemingly is my kill button. So now there, right off the bat, appears to be a loose terminal. I don't know if we get that lucky or not, but it's not showing me which one's back in through this system. This one's off of here. But this one, that is very, very loose there. Very loose. So once again, we're going to be trying to look for 12 volts up here. Still only got 2.85. So, it's not that. I think we'd get that lucky, but we're back through here. What we're doing is following our 12 volt wire that is actually here, which is our live to our coil, and it's back through the frame here. And what we can see is that it's running to a small toggle switch. I think right there. Yeah, so it's running here to a small toggle switch here, which should be acting as a kill button, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything at all. I'm getting nothing when I throw that voltage from that switch. I'm gonna have to open it up and see. We should have power from this switch here at 12 volts, but we don't. So let's spread it and see. Just enough that we can get our meter on it. Turn our key on. So I've got 12 volts right there, which tells me that I've got a problem from here up to the coil, unless miraculously whatever's caused it to kick out is kicked back in and I've got 12 up here, but I don't. So I've got 12 volts right there, which means from this wire up to there, is a problem at this point, and we're not getting voltage up there. I got nothing there. Nothing there, but I got 12 volts there. So we got a problem. Possibly in that. Okay. That should be my juice wire. She broke off right there. Yeah! That flew right off. I wanted to see if that's pulled out of there. Okay. Now, we'll see this terminal where we thought we had that broken terminal. Turn the kill switch off. There we go. Kill switch on. Here we go. We just used a process of elimination to figure out the lesser of the two evils. We certainly didn't want to have to tell this gentleman that he's got to have a new coil and a new ignition system, because I've never seen the Dion ignition systems break down in my experience. So I was very shocked to think that it may be that, and I don't think it was that. So we started back at the key switch, following the power through the key switch up to the kill switch, which is the toggle switch up there, just sort of a safety thing he has to turn it off and on so nobody knows where to switch it. And from this side, the coil side of the toggle switch, when I turned it on, I had 12 volts there. But when I came up here to the terminal, I didn't have 12 volts. After inspecting this and looking at the shrink wrap and where the terminal was connected, it appears to me that it was broke off, or just ready to break off. I was only getting 2 point something volts there. So consequently, when he got the bike fired up and it got going and the vibrations started shaking the bike, it broke the connection. And once it broke the connection, it kind of sat there broken. When he let it sit, he turned the bike over a bit, it made a little bit of a connection, enough to fire it up. But then very quickly would die again. So we're going to put it back together and try it, but I feel pretty good that that is the problem through there, and we've saved him about 700 bucks Canadian just to buy a coil and ignition setup on this. So he'll be happy about that. All right, so we'll get a new end on it, and we'll take it from there, wire these coils back up and give it a try. Just checking because it seems like the blue wire is touching the terminal there. Almost ground right into the ground terminal. We don't want that. It takes a minute. Takes a minute to go back and fix a problem that you seen as you were assembling, and A lot of guys will just go ahead and keep assembling and say, oh, I'll get that later. Problem is they don't get it later. And it either causes a problem right away or something develops down the road because they forgot. Now we'll check and see with the coils mounted and grounded. Okay, check our 12 volts off the battery. We're 12. Key on. Here we go, 15.5 volts there. And this bike should fire right up. We do need spark plug wires. I don't think there's anything wrong with his, so. So there you go. Sometimes it's just a process of elimination, and I'm really happy that I could fix this bike for this fellow like this. Electrical is electrical. Patience, patience, patience. Start at point A, work your way to point B where you need to have the power. Somewhere in between, there's a problem. That's where you find it. So once again, I get a motorcycle that has been to other places and everybody else has had a go at it and nobody seems to be able to fix it. So inevitably, they come and see me. I don't know whether it's because I have a clue about electrical issues or not. I must say that every custom bike that I've gotten in this shop that came out of the US, the wiring was a nightmare in it. It was spaghetti, it was just, and I don't know whether surely it didn't come from the person that built it that way, but after so many people have been at it and they didn't know where it was going, they tear it all apart and then you end up with massive amounts of spaghetti in underneath. This particular bike I wired a few years ago now. Had to basically cut most of it out and try to determine what was what and put proper relays in and breakers in and such. And to my knowledge, he never had a problem from that day forward, except for this. And now, after looking the bike over and doing our checks and try and trace things down, we found that it was a simple problem as a coil wire. It had been crimped out here, but it had been crimped so much that the wires had actually been crushed out on it. It was all shrink wrapped, covered, looked fine, appeared to be fine, but when you took it apart, it had broken away from the terminal and the wire. And then over a period of time, of course, right there by your engine, going like this, the wires let go, and that's why we were down to 2.4 volts instead of the 12 at the coil what we were supposed to have. It's an easy fix, but hard to find. That led us to understand where to and from where we're going, and so we found that the 12 volts necessary at the coil had to be found. By just backtracking and going back through ways, we were able to start at point A, work to point B, work to point C, get to where we wanted to go. Especially with bikes like this, where the wiring is all up in the frame, it makes it a little more difficult and harder to get at. But still, the same theory works. Point A to point B to point C. and making sure you know where you're going. And that will help you eliminate any problems in between. Just trying to test haphazardly around is not going to get you anywhere except frustrated. So this bike looks great now, and it's a beautiful day, so I think we'll get ready and we'll take this thing out for a ride.
I'll bet that felt good.
Huh?
I'll bet that felt good.
Yeah, it felt pretty good. Just try it.